Live from REISTERSTOWN, it's Dylan Knows. Dun, 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 dun. Hello, welcome to a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, episode 628. Live from REISTERSTOWN, it's Dylan Knows Live. Yes, the reason I'm doing that in just about 17 minutes, it will literally be 50 years to the second that Saturday Night Live debuted. October 11th, 1975. It is now October 11th, 2025, also on a Saturday, which is crazy, but we got a little early, so maybe when it actually comes, we will discuss it again. That's not the biggest news story of the week. We have an incredibly more sad story of the week to be our story of the week, but we'll talk about that in a second. But this is a brand new episode of Dylan Knows, October 11th, 11:14 p.m. here on the 2025. We were expecting a massive rainstorm to roll through here starting today into tomorrow. It's going to be a bust for us. It's still building up to down south, but I think it's moving further away, so it's not going to be as bad as everybody's expecting it. But earlier in this week, everybody was freaking the frick out. They were talking about how it was going to be like a nor'easter and stuff like that. It still has potential to maybe do that, but it's not going to affect me up here in the slightest. It's going to be just like a little rainstorm. That's all it's going to be. It's going to affect maybe the coastal places, obviously, but so again, the weathermen freaking out about something that they really don't know too much about, and then turns out that it's not really going to happen. So that's the way things are now, I guess. We started off pretty rough. I was not feeling really that great on Monday. I mean, my stomach was really, really sore. It felt, bad. I couldn't tell you what it was. I was afraid that, it was just a pain just right here the whole time. And then it just, the next day when I actually was at, during the day when I was working, it would shift back to the back, and then it would go to this side and go down this way and go up. And it was just rough. And then as the week progressed, it got better and better. Periodic spots here and there that have popped up. And then, now I'm feeling pretty good right now. So I'm not putting it out of the way, but that was just kind of a weird sort of feeling that kind of hit me. And I'm not exactly sure what it is. I'm sure something's going to continue down the line. I've been putting heating pads on my back, and it's been making me sleep longer than I really should want to. Monday, I was late for work. I did not late for the work. I got up late. I was supposed to get up usually at 4:30. I was up at like 5:07. So my alarm went off, which hadn't happened in a long time. And then the last few days after that, it's been about 4:46, closer to 4:50 before I get up, where I usually get up at 4:30, pretty much on the dot. So, there's that. And then today I had the heating pad. Last night I had the heating pad on as well, and I didn't wake up till 9:45 this morning. So usually I try to get up between 8:30 and 9:30. So we'll see. But, the weekend is coming close to a fast end. Next weekend is going to be a weird one. It's the wedding of two of our friends way out in the boonies. I'm not looking terribly forward to it, driving all the way out there, and it's a camping sort of thing, and I'm not really into that much stuff. So I'm not exactly sure what's going to happen. I'll probably be doing my show late on Sunday, probably, because I will not be here on Saturday. I'll be up at the wedding for that. So I got a whole week to figure that out. My wife's van now has her check engine light just came on, so she's freaking out about that right before we're going on a long trip. My son has a 4-day weekend coming up next weekend, and he's going to go out, and my daughter will be joining us for the wedding as well, because we are all friends with their family and their kids and stuff like that. So we'll see. Was going to try to put out my Halloween decoration today, but I was worried about this rain that never came, and then I'm worried to put out tomorrow because of the rain, and the Ravens do play tomorrow, and it is Community Day, so we'll see. So right now, we're looking at 20 days away from Halloween. It's still early, and I don't know what I'm going to do for my costume. Everybody keeps asking me at work, what are you going to do? I have no idea. There's just so much else going on in the world and in my life right now. I really have no idea what's going on with anything. Before we get to really, really big news, let me jump. I just mentioned the Ravens. What's interesting about the Ravens was I made a joke earlier today, and we're gonna see if it actually worked out. My Ravens have a disappointing year. They're 1-4 right now. They haven't started 1-4 in forever. They've just not looked like the same team. Lamar's been out, was out last week, and will be out this week as well. And then the bye is next week, so that's pretty good. A little bit of a breather. So if my theory holds true, it's not really going to affect anything because they're not playing next week. But my theory was, I started thinking about it a little bit, is that they're 1-4, and the 4 games they lost, I did shows on a Sunday. The one game they won, I did Saturday night like I did today. So let me clarify. So opening night was Sunday night football. So I was able to do, and I've been liking doing my Sunday show during the off season because Saturday nights I tend to fall asleep or yawn a lot and get really, really tired doing the show. So I wanted to try to, stay awake and I get a little bit more interaction during a day than late at night like it is now. So I wanted to keep doing that. So I enjoyed that. So the fact that they weren't going to play till Sunday night, I said, okay, I can do my show early on Sunday, which I did. And they lost the game 41-40. I was like, okay. And then as the week progressed, I said, okay, I'm going to, for whatever reason, I said the Ravens' home game is 1:00 on Sunday. So I can't really do my show. I'm not going to go Sunday afternoon to do my show after the Ravens game. So I'll do it Saturday night like I usually do. And I did it Saturday night, and they ended up winning the game the next day. Their next game was a Monday night game against the Detroit Tigers. So, not Tigers, the Lions, excuse me. So again, it's like, okay, you know what? It's the weekend. I don't have to, I don't really want to do it on Saturday, so I'll do Sunday again. And I did the show Sunday. They lost the game on Monday. And then the weekend after that, they were going to be playing the Kansas City Chiefs at 4:25. And so I figured, okay, I can do the show before the game again because it's on a Sunday. I didn't want to do it on Saturday, so I did it early on that Sunday again, and they lost that game. And then last week they played the Titans because it was our anniversary. I wasn't going to do it Saturday night, so I did it Sunday after the game. That's why I was kind of depressed in the way I was last week and the way I was feeling about that. Plus, I was starting to feel bad after that. And so they lost that one. So the 4 games that they lost, I did a show on a Sunday. The one game they won, I did on a Saturday. So playing the Rams tomorrow, which is going to be a tough team, but they're coming in from LA. And we'll see what happens. We're getting some of our injured players back. So we'll see what happens. This leader is a bit bigger than the usual ones, isn't it? I guess so. I'm not going to drink it all probably anyway. I never did. So that's my Ravens theory, which I think is kind of interesting. Yeah, so let's do this anniversary, the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. I wish I would have done my best Saturday Night Live sketches this weekend, but again, I'm very bad at planning stuff out and not wanting to do anything. Because besides Fortnitemares is happening right now, which is Fortnite's Halloween event, and it's actually really decent this year. Last few years have been kind of sucky, so it's good to actually have a good one. So we're getting lots of new skins, which I'm going to have to get. Dawn gets paid on Friday, so I'll probably be for do the wedding, whatever. I'm going to buy a bunch of V-Bucks, stuff like that. So that'll be good. So the island has a bunch of new POIs, and they've got Jason as a boss, and you can turn into Ghostface from Scream, and you have a really cool mythical where you call somebody and it shows there's somebody in the area, and then you can sneak up by. They don't see you when you're running, and you don't appear to them until you actually jump out and start stabbing them, which is really cool. So it's pretty neat about that, and just Halloween weapons and stuff like that. So it's always kind of cool when they do Fortnitemares. The Pokemon Go Halloween event does not start for a couple weeks now. They're in the middle of the Harvest Festival, which is okay. It's not the same, but it's okay. So we got that going on. So I was going to try to do that, but I ended up not doing that. So what else real quick before we get to the big story of the week? New York Comic Con is this week. So some of the news that you're going to be hearing this week is from New York Comic Con. I couldn't tell you which ones are which. There are some specific ones I have marked. But yeah, so some of the stuff here is going on from the New York Comic Con. A lot of it is more comic related, which I really haven't mentioned too much on the show. So not there yet. So we're 7 minutes away from Saturday Night Live, their 50th anniversary, literally. You haven't watched Jason Reitman's movie Saturday Night, which came out last year on the 11th, but it was a Friday. It was 1 year ago. Actually, so it is the anniversary too. It's 1 year ago today. It came out in movie theaters. Didn't get a chance to see the movie theater, even though I really wanted to, but didn't get to. But I did buy the movie, watch it during my July 4th movie marathon time. And loved it absolutely. The young cast members they got, including Dylan O'Brien, to portray the original Not Ready for Primetime players is great. And even the ancillary characters like the Jim Hensons and the George Carlins and the stuff that they brought into actors to portray them has been just as good also. Just a wonderful collection of actors, a great storyline, which was just basically, based on a true story, apparently, which was, the movie's done in real time as Lorne Michaels is trying to get the first show ever, Saturday Night Live, off the ground. He's having so many problems, not even funny. And that basically plays to what's going to be happening in about 6 minutes. So the movie would be, at this point in the movie, they would be getting everybody, on set and stage and ready to rock and roll. They've discovered their mojo and they're getting moving and they're really excited for it. So just a great cast. You haven't checked it out. It's great. You'll see a lot of familiar faces in there, and just the young actors who portrayed the Not Ready for Primetime players did a great job of it. And so very decent. It was good to see. Don't know how much of it is true. I'm assuming a good portion of it is, because I think it was based on somebody who was actually in the area. So let's hope that. It continues on. Saturday Night Live is definitely iconic. Has given us a number of comedic actors through the years. And it was like their first showcase that they'd ever done before. So kind of fun to see all that there as well. So 5 minutes away. I will wait to tell the big story, which is kind of sad, till after the actual event. So in 5 minutes, let's do a couple more news stories here. Daniela Deadweiler is set to lead Ryan Coogler's reboot of the Xfiles. There's also been rumors that Gillian Anderson and Robert Patrick both might be portraying roles, that maybe reprising their roles in it. So we'll see how that goes. But Ryan Coogler working on that, and he's hot right now. Should be pretty good. Wonder Man, we got our first look at that for the New York Comic Con trailer, and I'm not too excited about it. It doesn't really appear to be like the Wonder Man that we know. It just looks like it's some sort of meta thing where there was a TV show called Wonder Man, which had the character that we know and love from the comics, and a movie director wants to bring it to life, and it follows an actor named Simon Williams, who either took the name as a meta thing or that's his actual name, not sure. And he's going to audition for the role. And it just looks like sort of like a Hollywood sort of thing. And there's like no sign of him powering up, no connection with the rest of the Marvel Universe, with the exception of Ben Kingsley's actor character who's been in Shang-Chi and Iron Man 3. And, that's the most connection he has with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So a lot of people aren't excited about that. It doesn't speak to me. It was supposed to come out this year. It's not. They've moved it to January 27th, 2026. That was announced at New York Comic Con as well. Daredevil season 2 is supposed to come out in March of 2026. We thought it'd be February, but it's going to be March now instead. X-Men 97, the second season, is finally going to be revealed in the summer of 2026. Vision Quest is coming sometime in 2026. They don't know yet. And the Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Season 2 animated show will be coming fall of 2026. That was all announced at New York Comic Con this week. Two other big announcements. I don't know if that was at New York Comic Con, but it was revealed this week that the Simpsons movie is getting a sequel 14 some years after the first one. And Minecraft, the movie that came out earlier this year, huge success for Warner Brothers, was pretty much guaranteed it, but has been officially greenlit for a sequel as well. Both of which will be dropping on the same day. The Simpsons 2 and Minecraft 2, as of now, are both set to drop on July 23rd, 2027. So it could be an interesting sort of Barbenheimer sort of effect coming in there as well. Sigourney Weaver at the New York Comic Con stated that she'd read the first 50 pages of an Alien sequel and she enjoyed it. I don't know how true that is or not because I haven't heard of another sequel coming, but another Ripley Alien would be an interesting film, I guess. But Sigourney Weaver, she said it, so why are we not going to believe her? Also, New York Comic Con, they announced Absolute Catwoman will be getting her own miniseries. They showed pictures of her in the new issues of Absolute Batman, and she looks hot as always. So to have her coming in as her own miniseries is interesting as well. Speaking of Absolute Batman, it has been picked up for its 9th printing, which is crazy. It's second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth printings are interesting in the comic world, but in 9th printing is absolutely insane. So that's crazy. That's crazy. And Rian Johnson is stepping away from his Knives Out series for just a bit. He said he would love to make Knives Out movies forever, as with Daniel Craig, but he wants to tackle a few other things as well for them. So before we, before he gets back to doing that again, he wants to maybe do one or two more things as well before then. So are we there yet? Not yet, quite yet. Marvel and DC Comics will not be supporting AI-generated storytelling or art, so they both made that announcement as well, that they will not be doing anything when it comes to that. And now it is official, 11:30 p.m. on October 11th, 2025. Live from New York at Saturday Night Live has turned 50 years old officially, and the new season is all up and running, so I'm wondering if they're going to do some sort of thing for the opening as well. So congratulations to you, 50 years Saturday Night Live. You deserve it. Congratulations. Real quick, one more anniversary thing before we hit the big news. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, the movie directed by Chris Columbus, is set to celebrate, Warner Brothers will celebrate its 25th anniversary next year, which is will be the 25th anniversary next year, by re-releasing it in movie theaters, and there's going to be a whole bunch of other stuff as well. So it'll be interesting to see that stuff coming out in 2025. The TV show is still set for 2027, so I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get a couple years worth of shows under their belt before they air it so that the actors can grow into the role and have a little bit of time off here and there. Because Harry Potter is currently filming right now. We had our first look at John Lithgow as Dumbledore. And he looks like Dumbledore. That's all you need to know. All right. Oh, yeah, real quick. And yeah, I just did it already. So here we go. Here is the sad story here, 18 minutes into the show. One of my favorite actors of all time, Diane Keaton, passed away today. Everybody in the world knows that by now. But I absolutely love Diane Keaton. She is iconic. Just the roles she's played for 50 some years is insane. And the fact that she was working all the way up through her death, not surprising. She's worked with a lot of famous directors and actors, has been connected to a lot of famous actors and directors via romance. I don't think she actually ever has any children or whatever. I don't know if she ever settled down and got married to anybody. But that's not who she was. And I have to just do it. This is how much I love her. Just for her movies in general. And also the fact that this is something that not a lot of people know about, was she directed an episode of Twin Peaks, the TV show, in its second season. It's one of the, she was really maybe I don't know, she was uh, tied to the David Lynch-esque sort of quality to it, but I remember her episode being very visually Lynchian, and it was in the middle of when Twin Peaks was sort of in a rut, but it was starting to pick up steam right around the time that she came in and got involved with the episode. So she actually directed. That's really I think that's really the only thing she's ever directed was an episode of Twin Peaks, which is a weird little just thing that just pop up. It's just like Diane Keaton directed an episode of Twin Peaks. It's like, really? It's like, sure as hell did. Let's see if it's in her. They didn't even put in her TV thing. She directed it. What are you doing? Why isn't it in there? Drive me crazy. It should be right there. 1991, 1990. It should be right there. Sons of bitches. But she did do it, and I'm not. It's not a fever dream. I didn't make it up. David Lynch and the Twin Peaks family actually posted the actual picture of it from the TV show. So man, on that. But let's just look at her film work. Starting with 1972, The Godfather. Yes, she was in Godfathers 1, 2, and 3. Played Al Pacino's girlfriend / wife in those. Did a fantastic job of it. She also hooked up with Woody Allen in 1972 with Play It Again, Sam, and became sort of his muse early in his career because she was in Play It Again, Sam and Sleeper, which were both Woody Allen films. Annie Hall, which was also Woody Allen, was the one she won her Oscar for. Looking for Mr. Goodbar, she was in that, where she was, I think, with Warren Beatty in that one. Manhattan, another Woody Allen movie. She did that as two. Reds with the aforementioned Warren Beatty, and they were dating each other. She dated Woody Allen also and Warren Beatty. Crimes of the Heart, which is also Woody. Radio Days, which is Woody. Then she started breaking away from Woody a little bit, started doing her own little thing. She still had a few Woodies coming up, but first up, Baby Boom, where she started hooking up with Nancy Myers and Charles Shire. Baby Boom's a great film, underrated. I don't know if I think I took it off of my original underrated list, and it's going to be on my Son of Underrated Films. Just a marvelous, just spotlight for Diane Keaton, up there with Sam Shepard and Harold Ramis are the other two big actors in that as well. But it is Diane Keaton's movie, and she plays and James Spader's in it also. She plays a hard-driving businesswoman who inherits a child and is fully planning on giving it up for adoption, but the family's going to adopt it as some redneck MAGA-esque sort of piece of shit who want to turn her into a boy, and she's not going to stand for that. And she also stayed up with her all night when she was coughing, the baby was. So she ends up just cashing in. Plus, she's been noticing that at work, her James Spader, the young guy, has been trying to circumvent her a little bit. So she realizes that I'm done, and she ends up moving into this glorious house with a bunch of land up in Vermont, but it turns out to be a money pit, one of the worst things ever. And so she's trying to find her way back. She becomes attracted to the local veterinarian, played by Sam Shepard, and she eventually discovers a way to create a new food line by creating gourmet baby food for her daughter. And it becomes the hit of the town, and she ends up circling back and dealing with her former employers. It's a great movie and well worth it if you haven't watched it before. The Good Mother, which was directed by Leonard Nimoy. I remember that a little bit. Father the Bride, which was also Charles Shire and Nancy Myers, the remake of it. She did 1, 2, and 3-ish. She and Steve Martin had amazing chemistry, and I loved seeing them together, and they looked like that they would be a perfectly married couple. It was just phenomenal to see that. And I'm so mad that they never really jumped on the Father the Bride 3-ish. For those who don't remember, during COVID in 2020, as a way to, solidarity and get people to, because that was stuff that was happening. People where they were afraid people were getting isolated, stuff like that. So Hollywood's tried to do crazy things. They did a short film called The Father of the Bride 3-ish. And it's a short film, probably about 15 minutes long, all done through Zoom calls. So the original cast came back. So you're looking at Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Kimberly Williams, I forget the guy who plays her husband, but he was there. Kieran Culkin, who's there, Diane Keaton and Steve Martin's son. Those were the originals were in it. And then, if those who remember seeing Father of the Bride 2, both Kimberly Williams, Paisley, I should add that to her, she's married to Brad Paisley, and her husband had a daughter, and then Diane Keaton had a son, and Diane Keaton and Steve Martin had a daughter on the same night. So they're basically birthday twins sort of things. So they pushed it. So Father of the Bride 3 takes place obviously almost 20 some years later, almost 30 years later, I should say. And Martin Short was also played the guy who was Frank, who was the guy he's in it also. George Newbern was the name of the husband. So what they did was, they ended up, so they had a baby, and that was the end of Father of the Bride Part 2. We never had a Part 3 until this one in 2020, which was sort of the Zoom call sort of thing. And this is why I'm so disappointed, because the actress who played their daughter, Megan, the youngest daughter of Steve Martin and Diane Keaton, was Florence Pugh. It was my first time I ever really saw Florence Pugh before she was in Black Widow. And I never saw anything else. This was the first thing I saw her in. And I've become a Florence Pugh fan. And I was like, I would love to have seen her actually interacting with Steve Martin and Kieran and Diane and Newbern and Kimberly Williams, stuff like that. And their son, Kimberly Williams and Newbern's son, was played by Ben Platt. Alexandra Shipp was a actress who was introduced in the third one, who was playing the wife or the fiance, or rather the girlfriend of Kieran Culkin's character. And the whole thing about the Zoom calls that he was going to propose to her on a Zoom call and get married. Her father was played by Robert De Niro. So just think of that. Just think of the movie you could have with Steve Martin, Diane Keaton, Martin Short, Kimberly Williams Paisley, Kieran Culkin, George Newbern, Alexandra Shipp, Florence Pugh, Ben Platt, Robert De Niro. Just think about that. What could have been. But wait, we still have more to go, because she's got a lot of stuff coming up here. She rejoined Woody for Manhattan Murder Mystery. First movie she did with him in years. Look Who's Talking Now. She's one of the voices of one of the babies. The First Wives Club, which is absolutely phenomenal movie. If you have not seen it, it is amazing. Loved it. Her, Bette Midler, and Goldie Hawn waged war against their ex-husbands, which is a phenomenal movie. Marvin's Room, where she reteams with Robert De Niro, or teams up with Robert De Niro for the first time. The Other Sister, Hanging Up, where she reteamed with, she directed it too. I didn't think she directed Hanging Up. I thought she just directed Twin Peaks. Oh, well. But she directed Hanging Up, where she reteamed with Bette Midler and Goldie Hawn. Town and Country, where she reteamed with Warren Beatty. She was an executive producer of Elephant, really. Okay. Somebody's Got to Give, I think, was another one of the Nancy Meyers movies. The Family Stone is a Christmas movie, which I don't think I've ever seen before, but I've heard really good things about it. Mama's Boy, she was in, didn't know that. Mad Money, Morning Glory, Finding Dory, she was one of the voices there. Book Club was her more recent new stuff, where she teamed up with a bunch of aging actresses. Did great. They did a sequel to it in 2023. And that was it. That's really it. But I mean, she's just a phenomenal, iconic actress, very wonderful, and very just influential in the fact that I don't know if I don't know if this story is true or not, but I believe I heard Michael Keaton once said, now, The story Michael Keaton might have said his real name is Michael Douglas. Michael Keaton's real name is Michael Douglas. And there's already an actor who was named Michael Douglas by the time he broke into Hollywood. And by that point, Michael Douglas had already been around for about 10 years, and everybody knew who he was. Now, obviously, Michael Douglas really didn't hit big until, he was, they knew him in the 70s, and he had a lot of stuff he did in the 70s and the early 80s. But he wasn't like Michael Douglas because of all the movies he did in the 80s and 90s, stuff like that. But still, there was already Michael Douglas. You couldn't have two of them in there. So Michael Keaton had to come up with a stage name. Rumor has it that he was watching a Diane Keaton movie and said, Keaton's a good name. And then said, all right, you can call me Michael Keaton. And people who didn't know his real name was Michael Douglas would ask him in, interviews, stuff like that. So you related to Diane Keaton. And sometimes he would say, yeah, she's my sister. We're doing great, stuff like that. That blew people's minds away. That was just, I wish the two of them would have made a movie as brother and sister. It would have been freaking hilarious. A fun comedy with the two of them together would have been a blast, I think. And then other times it's like, no, and tell the story of what I just told you as well. I don't know how true any of this really is, but I find it a good story considering, that Diane Keaton has passed away today at the age of 79. So older than my parents and my in-laws as well. Speaking of Michael Keaton and Batman, well, it's not Michael Keaton, he's not Batman, but speaking of Batman, New York Comic Con announced Batman Nightfall will be getting a 2-part animated movie. It's one of the only big Batman stories they have not done a movie of yet, so we'll see more about that. This week, a big surprise kind of news that just popped up because no one really thought that it was really happening. There's always been fan casting and predictions that it was going to happen eventually, but apparently this is from Deadline, which is a major, entertainment news thing. It's not really these fake news websites, whatever, but Deadline came out and said, Scarlett Johansson is set to play Mother Gothel in the Tangled live action movie, which rumor has been last week or so that other young actors have been auditioning for the role of the male lead. And so more of that came out as Danny Ramirez, who played the Falcon in the new Captain America movie, is rumored to be the front runner for the character as well. That one was not from Deadline, but he's probably one of the actors who did show up to auditions. So we'll see what happens. So apparently a Tangled live action movie is in the works, and Scarlett Johansson is putting her star power behind it and is going to be cast as Mother Gothel. So I think that's really good news on that end. Warwick Davis, he of Star Wars, Harry Potter, Willow fame, is also known for playing Leprechaun, the horror series, which there's been 8 of them. I was like, wow, 8 Leprechaun movies, really? Yes, there have been, because Warwick Davis released a picture this week, potentially rumoring that there could be a 9th Leprechaun movie in the works. It's a great picture, too. It's a cartoon Leprechaun shirt that he's wearing, and he's got a cartoon Leprechaun hat, and it's hilarious, and he's just sort of standing there. He's in the middle of filming the Harry Potter TV series right now. He's the only original actor from both the movie series and the TV show. He's playing the same role that he played in the movie that he's playing in the TV show. So good on him. So he's filming that right now. So there could be potentially a Leprechaun 9 in the works. Zootopia 2 is another big one that's been coming out. A lot of information about that too. That's due out around Thanksgiving. I think that's the Thanksgiving Disney movie. Danny Trejo and Robert Irwin's son, or is that his name? No, that might be his son. Robert Irwin, Irwin's son, are set to play roles in Zootopia 2. Megan Fox is set to voice Toy Chica and Five Nights at Freddy 2. There's another actor. Let's see if I can find him on here, who was announced for another role as well. I don't think I can find it right now. Oh, well, it'll pop up. But there was another actor who announced that he was going to be a voice as well. So there we go. Yellow Jackets is set to end after season 4. So that was interesting to see that. Bradley Cooper will be joining Margot Robbie in the Ocean's 11 prequel, directed by Lee Isaac Chang, who directed the sequel to Twisters. The Bat Fam trailer, I talked about that last week. We finally got the first trailer for that. It's a new family-oriented Batman cartoon coming on Amazon Prime that has nothing to do with the darker animated series they have there. A little bit closer to home, a putrid green algae stream has appeared in the Inner Harbor, downtown Baltimore. They're calling the Pistachio Tide, which is actually what I was going to name the episode, Pistachio Tide, until I forgot that this was the weekend that was the 50th anniversary of Saturday Night Live. So there's that news story. A letter from Indy the dog, who starred in Good Boy, made its way to the Academy, saying there should be a special award for animal actors at the Academy Awards. And we'll see if that comes to fruition. This year, we're going to get this upcoming Academy Awards season. We're going to get our first new Academy Award in a long time, which is going to be Best Ensemble. And then a year after that, next year, we'll get the first ever Stuntman, Best Stunts Oscar as well. So, you know, there's not always going to be movies with animal actors in them, so I don't know if it would be feasible to do an award just for animal actors, but maybe if there was one that was kind of spectacular that one year, it could be like an honorary animal actor award sort of thing. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't watched it, but James Gunn is really building his universe right now. Superman was a great movie. I watched that. But I didn't watch the first season of Peacemaker, and season 2 came out after Superman debuted, and it finally ended its 7, 8 episode run, or 9 episode, whatever it was, with a huge surprise, which is setting up the James Gunn DCU even further. Slight spoiler alert for those who haven't watched Peacemaker 2. I'm going to talk about some spoilers there. This is what I've just read. I don't have any frame of reference to this. I pepper. But this is actually what is being said and is what the comic book geek in me is like. This is awesome. The season 2 ends with Rick Flag Sr. joining forces with Lex Luthor to form Argus, which is going to be probably a big part of Superman coming up, because Nicholas Holt's Lex Luthor did cameo in this new season, so they're setting up that story. So when we see Lex again, he could be out on parole working with Argus because of what happened here. The Peacemaker and his crew that he worked with, well, not Peacemaker, we'll get that in a second, but his crew is supposedly going to be creating Checkmate, which is a comic that actually, believe it or not, back when they used to mail comic books to people, you could get a subscription to a comic book. Checkmate was one of the first comics that I ever got a subscription to in the mail. So I got like the first 24 issues of Checkmate delivered to me in the mail before I just stopped doing that and started going more to comic shops to get the stuff. I like Checkmate. It's really got a really cool character designs. But they are going to be like the good side of the keeping an eye on the superhumans, whereas Argus is going to be the bad side of keeping an eye on them, sort of thing. And finally, what happened to Peacemaker is actually based in an actual comic book. They place him on a planet called Salvation. Argus does. And what they're doing is, because remember, Lex Luthor created his own sort of like alternate reality, quantum prison sort of thing in Superman. He's doing something similar by shipping villains, or it could be potentially regular superheroes also, to this planet called Salvation, which is very Earth-like. There was a comic series that came out a long time ago. You're digging claws at me, cat. called Salvation Run, which had all the supervillains, like all of them, like Lex and Joker and Solomon Grundy and Catwoman and a whole bunch of other ones on this planet, and they were trying to escape it. And that's what people is they think is going to be play a major role and stuff. And then with Lanterns coming out next year, they are saying already that Argus and Checkmate and Salvation is probably going to play a role in Green Lantern as well. Cat, you're going to fall and you're going to scratch the hell out of me. He's licking my hair. So that's kind of neat to see that Gunn is really keeping his hand on the pulse and really has a plan set for what he wants to do. And he says that a lot of this is going to set up stuff that's going to appear in the new Superman movie, which will be out in a couple of years. Nothing really with Supergirl, because I'm sure they're keeping stuff close to the vest there until it gets closer to that. But the fact that they mentioned Lanterns is going to have a Salvation sort of crossover as well, and maybe even some Argus and Checkmate stuff as well. That makes perfect sense to me. Well, no. Nobody. She got you. Put it down, ground. Because I want you to roll my stream. You're not ruining it, but you might turn it off. I don't want that to happen. Good boy. So we'll see if that's a good thing. So one more other death that happened this week. Craig Heist of this local news. He was a sports broadcaster in the DC, I was going to say DC Marvel area, DC Maryland area, Baltimore area. He passed away this week as well. Anniversaries, we have The Long Kiss Goodnight, 29 years ago. The Transporter, 23 years ago this week. Terrifier 3, 1 year ago this week. Silver Bullet, based on Cycle of the Werewolf, which is a very interesting Stephen King book. They made a movie out of it called Silver Bullet. Is 40 years old this week. For those who don't know, Silver Bullet, Cycle of the Werewolf was basically supposed to be like a specialized calendar that Bernie Wrightson, a really famous comic book artist, did for Stephen King in the 80s. And Stephen King decided to write like a small book about each picture that Bernie Wrightson did for this calendar, and they were all werewolf related. So he had, and since werewolf cycle, according to Stephen King lore, is with the full moon. The full moon is every 28 days, so every month they would have a cycle. So basically, every chapter was 1 month, and they would talk about the stuff that was going on about there, and the story would progress from there and there. It's very short. It's one of, if you want to read. If you've never read Stephen King, and you look at the size of his books and you feel overwhelmed, Cycle of the Werewolf's a really good one to start with, because you do get a general idea of what you're going to be getting into a little bit. But it's also a very short, very quick. I think it's like 100 pages, something like that. It's a real quick read. It's really good too. I liked it. And Silver Bullet's a really good movie also. I need to revisit it. It's another one. I might revisit it during my Halloween rewatch whenever that stuff comes around. So that's 40 years ago this week. 30 Rock debuted 19 years ago this week. The Xfiles episode Home, considered to be probably the the scariest hour of television ever, debuted 29 years ago this week. I mean, and that's not hyperbole. After the episode aired, which I did watch when it originally aired, because of and it was one of the only episodes that had to have a warning before it because of the graphic qualities of it, and only a show that was successful could do it. It came out in the 4th or 5th season, so it was only it had to have been around for a while before they could actually do something like this. But because it was such a visceral show, the episode was not shown in reruns, nor was it when it went to syndication, nor was it shown in syndication for years, until one day they decided to release it as a Halloween special. Say, hey, you can watch this as on Halloween night or whatever to rewatch the episode you haven't seen. And it's been showing up periodically here and there. But it's just about 3 inbred thugs who are killing babies and people, and Mulder and Scully are involved. It is a crazy backwaters West Virginia sort of. It's a disturbing episode. I cannot stress how disturbing it is. I'm not going to talk about it anymore because you need to see it for yourself. So there's that. I finished the Val Kilmer memoir. I'm Your Huckleberry, which he came to prove. There was a period of time after Val died earlier this year that people were saying he never really said I'm your Huckleberry. He said I'm your Hucka carrier or something like that, which was something that Huckle bearer, that's what it was, meaning someone who would carry a coffin. And Val Kilmer was like, in his memoir, and I don't know why people came up with that because he passed away, but and then this stuff came out. But in the book, if you read the book, he's like, no, I've heard people say it before, and it's not true. I'm the one who said it. It was my line. I said it. I said Huckleberry, meaning this, not Huckle bearer. So he put that to rest. It's an interesting book because he delves again, this is one of the things that pisses me off about memoirs. But in the end, it makes sense. But in this, it didn't piss me off that as much as it did in other things, that they barely touch on their big movies. So he had like chapter titles like this is Batman and this is Tombstone, Real Genius, stuff like that. But in the chapter itself, he touches on it for maybe about a page or two, not really giving a lot of insight into the making of it or behind the scenes gossip or whatever, and then goes on and starts talking about other stuff. Because in this, Val Kilmer was very, very spiritual. He was also a damn fine writer. The book does have a lot of spiritual stuff. A lot of it is his expounding on a lot of things, and it's not boring. It's interesting. The fact that he had as many relationships as he did with Daryl Hannah and Mare Winningham, and of course Joanna Whalley, and who he ended up marrying, and Cher. I mean, his relationship with Cher is huge, and he talks about that. He talks about his relationships a lot more than he does in movies, which is cool. Which is maybe one of the reasons why the book is still interesting, because he does give us some behind the scenes stuff and does talk a little bit about some things but he also does talk about his relationships and his dreams and his spirituality and some of the cool stuff that he's gone through, visions he's had. He's very, and he is like his character in Thunderheart. He is a small portion Native American, so he does tap into a little bit of that as well, and he does see a lot of the stuff like that. He's very a spiritual guy, and being a spiritual guy, he's drawn to New Mexico, which is a hugely spiritual state, it's disappointing what happened to that, and he's also drawn to Africa, which is another kind of a spiritual sort of plane as well. So just a lot of really interesting side notes and stories that on initial reading, you're like, I don't really want to learn about this, but he's so good at it that you're like, oh, you just talked about a little bit about Real Genius. That's okay. I want to hear, what are you talking about this and this? And it's so good. I did not feel it dragged at any point, and he did give enough info about the movies he made, and little anecdotes and stuff like that. And you learn certain things. I learned that Tony Scott, who I love, he passed away, unfortunately, committed suicide. Absolutely adored Val Kilmer, loved him so much. They worked together 3 or 4 times, but he wanted him more than anything in Top Gun, and went out of his way to make sure that Val Kilmer was in Top Gun. When Val Kilmer read Top Gun, he was like, that's okay. He wasn't that into it. And Tony Scott just absolutely had to like beg and plead and drag him into it and tell him about how great he was, stuff like that. And he wasn't lying just to get him in the movie. He really felt this way about Val Kilmer. And that sort of got Val thinking, this guy has a lot of belief in me. I may as well just do this. And he said, it was a blast. I had a great time. And he did the one movie he did talk a lot about, which he should, is The Doors, because that is still probably his best movie, up there with Doc Holliday, which is don't get me wrong, is phenomenal. He deserved an Oscar nomination for that. I don't think he got one for it. He's the iconic Doc Holliday. That is who Doc Holliday is. Whenever you see him or hear him, everything has to be compared to Val Kilmer's version in Tombstone. But I think his best role was of Jim Morrison in The Doors. And the fact that there are so many, I guess it's coincidences, but there's so much similar between Jim Morrison and Val Kilmer that it's scary. He wanted this role more than anything. And so he decided to test Oliver Stone, who kind of wanted him too. But he decided to test Oliver Stone and other members of the Doors. So he had a recording of Jim Morrison singing a bunch of songs. And then Val sang the same songs and was able to, make them be similar in tone to the Jim Morrison one. So you couldn't tell, yeah, this one was brand new and this one isn't. And played them side by side and said, which one's Jim, which one's me? And the members of the Doors and Oliver Stone could not tell the difference. And then it gets even weirder. And then there was things where he was in training with Jim Morrison's actual producer. And there was a couple of songs that freaked the hell out of the producer because he said, you're channeling Jim Morrison. There was one song that they were talking about where he sang it, and when he got a note at the end of it, Val was just like, it wasn't very good. It says, I know that part in the middle wasn't good, but I don't, for some reason, I don't like it. It just, I don't like how it's written. I think it needs to be redone. I don't know. And the producer was aghast. He said, that exact bit you're talking about, Jim Morrison said the exact goddamn same thing you said about it. And that was the one that cemented it, that Jim Morrison was coming through a Val. I wish he would have talked more about Top Secret, because that underwater bar fight scene, I would have loved to see his take on that, because he did that. That wasn't a stunt man. That was Val Kilmer doing that. And it was just, I don't know, but just I kind of wish there had been a little bit more about that. But all the stuff that I learned about him and the way his writing, his spirituality coming out, and his belief system, stuff like that. I actually thought when I'd heard about that, I was like, okay, this is going to be kind of a bleh. I actually enjoyed it a lot, and I think it was very well written. So, rest in peace, Val. Speaking of that, I got to say it right now. Anniversary, The Ghost in the Darkness, which is a movie he made with Michael Douglas, which connects to what I was talking about with Michael Keaton, came out 29 years ago this week. So I watched that movie also during my 4th of July thing. And it's a decent movie. But Val has always loved Africa, has always loved New Mexico, and always saw the kinship to those areas. There was also one more anecdote, which is hilarious, is that early on in his career, he joined somebody and went to an island and was trapped there for like a week and didn't know how he was going to get out. And he had to assimilate himself into the culture of the island in order for them to help him. And he had to make it because he was supposed to go on this safari trip to Africa, and he didn't want to miss that and reschedule it. And he was able to get it via coincidences, stuff like that. I don't want to say it's a great chapter. It just blew my mind that Val Kilmer early in his career had to go through something like that. And also the fact that he worked with Joanna Wally Kilmer, saw her at a party or something like that, and knew instantly he wanted to marry her, but he was too shy to approach her. And then years later, when they were working on Willow together, that's when they got together, and she's the only one that he's married, and they had kids. He talks lovingly about Kathy Ireland, supermodel dated, can't remember her name, Cindy Crawford, and also about Daryl Hannah. He talked lovingly about them. Cher, he has nothing but good things. They were lovers early in Val's career, and then they never officially broke up. They never officially got together, and they remained best friends all the way up through to his death, which was crazy. And just a lot of talks a lot about his relationships with women and his friendships and his philosophies and his poetry and his spirituality. And you think that it would be bad, it isn't, and it's kind of good. Obviously, I would like more about his movie making career, but what we got is actually decent. Last year around this time, I was doing like the 13 days of Halloween. I did a top 10 list, or not top 10, a list show almost every day that was Halloween oriented. And I hired my daughter to do one because her favorite thing was Monster High dolls. And she talked about Monster High. It was actually a pretty decent episode, 30 some views, which is really cool. Monster High announced this week that they're teaming up with Alien to create an Alien skull heckler doll. So it's an actual Monster High doll that looks like it's got the head of the xenomorph alien and just the body of like a woman. And it doesn't look bad. It actually is a really neat looking doll. So I sent my daughter a picture of it. So I don't know if she's responded back to it. I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'll talk about that later. So Dante's Peak is one of my favorite movies. And a while back, I saw on Amazon there's going to be a 4K version of Dante's Peak. And I'm trying not to go crazy with 4K because I've got good Blu-rays for a lot of these movies. But there are certain movies that I want to see in the new 4K format on my 4K Blu-ray I got for Christmas. So I saw Dante's Peak. It's like, okay, I want that. So I saw that on Amazon and I put it on my list. And then literally like about a week later, and it wasn't going to come out for about till like the end of August, something like that. So literally like, and this was back like in June, I put it on my list and it didn't say it was going to come out till like August. So literally like a week after I put it on my list, it said currently unavailable. It's like, oh, I should have put it on pre-order at that time. And I say, okay, I'll just wait for it to come out. And then they usually will have some stock on. I'll buy it then. So the date it was supposed to come out passed with no update on the, it says still said currently unavailable. Okay, so I was like, okay, they just didn't make enough copies. Like, okay. I resigned to the fact that I wasn't going to get it, and I just kept it on my list to see if maybe something was going to change. So I didn't think much about it. So I'm scrolling through Facebook the other day, like Thursday, and what do I see is the Dante's Peak 4K, and they says Dante's 4K is back on schedule after an issue. So apparently there's some sort of issue with Dante's Peak, and I think I re-upped it. I might not have, but let me just they might not have updated it yet. Yeah, they haven't updated it yet, but it still says currently unavailable. But they did say it is going to be after the issues, it will be coming back out again. So, or it will be fixed, and they'll get a new date for us. So we'll be getting that. So that's good. So that's still on my list. So it still says currently unavailable, but I'm going to delete this because I have it later on. So we'll keep an eye on that also. Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me. Talking about Twin Peaks again. I talked about that with Diane Keaton when I was talking about Diane Keaton. The David Lynch movie is also set for a 4K Criterion collection, which should be really cool later this year also. So that'd be really cool too. So we've got some good 4K stuff coming up. This is interesting. I think I talked about this on my underrated film list show, which you should check out definitely. I only have 6 views on it right now. I need to get more. The live action How the Grinch Stole Christmas with Jim Carrey, directed by Ron Howard, I think is hugely underrated because everybody hates it. But I actually love it. And it took me a little while when I first saw, no, it was my 2000. That's what it was. My 2000 list. That's what it was. That also came out recently. That actually was the one that got me 6 views. So my top movies of 2000. I saw How the Grinch Stole Christmas live action with my wife. in the movie theater because we had just started dating. And I was still working at the radio station. I did a movie premiere of it. That's why I was there for that. So I decided to stay for that. My wife wanted to watch it with me. So we did. And we both weren't big fans of it. So fast forward to about almost no, right before Thanksgiving, we're doing the radio station is doing a show, doing a thing in like a Best Buy or something like that, or a Wall or Costco or something like that, and we're right by the TV sets stuff like that, and they were playing the DVD copy of How the Grinch Stole Christmas live action because it had just come out. That was one thing. The old days when a movie would come out in movie theaters and it wouldn't come out on DVD for 3 to 6 months. In this case, it almost came out almost a year later. So they want to keep it, keep it, people anticipating it till because it made a lot of money when it first came out. A bunch of money when it came out on DVD too. So we were there at the event. They were showing the movie. I was rewatching it in between doing my job. I was like, this isn't actually too bad. It's kind of visually stunning. I kind of remember that. So I bought the DVD and I put it back in. I watched it again. And I didn't hate it as much. And then I watched it again and again and again. And before I knew it, here we are 25 years later. It's one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time. And I love it. And I'm telling the story again because Taylor Momsen, who played little Cindy Lou Who and did it very well 25 years ago. She's also all grown up now, and she's had quite a musical career. She's not a hugely popular singer, but people know who she is, a singer. She did some CW shows, I think, also. But she's a singer. She's done albums, stuff like that. She's releasing a Christmas album this year. And I kind of want to hear it. I would love if she would do like a remake of the song she sings in How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Where are you, Christmas? Why can't I? I'd love to hear Taylor do it in sort of Taylor Momsen do it in sort of her rock and roll sort of style. I think that'd be fucking awesome. I don't think she did. I don't know. I'll have to see if I can find the album. So, and at least listen to some of it on YouTube or whatever. So, Where Are You, Christmas? That's the name of the song. It would be so cool if she did a remake of it because she sang it in the original one. So we'll see what happens. But that's kind of cool. This is something that only, comic book. There's a independent comic book called Dreadstar, which was done by Jim Starlin. He's the guy who created Thanos. And or maybe not create him, but he's the one that really brought him to the forefront. He might have created him. Regardless, doesn't matter. But it's a great sci-fi comic. It's up there with Alien Legion, another really good one that not a lot of people know about. There's finally going to be a Dreadstar omnibus, and I really kind of want to get it. Actually, I'll just check that as well. And I really like it also. I hope they keep doing it because Peter David, who passed away earlier this year, wrote they did a reboot of it a little bit, and Peter David wrote Dreadstar, and it was one of my favorite comics in like the 90s and 2000s. So Dreadstar omnibus, there it is. It's only $40. Due set November 11th. Ooh, and there's going to be a second one due on May 19th. Interesting. So I'm going to put those on there. I'm going to say save for later and save for later. Speaking of which, Fantastic Four comes out on Blu-ray this week. Just realized that. The Twin Peaks Criterion Collection is already out. Okay. Something else is coming out on the 14th. Oh, yeah, The Future Boy, the Michael J. Fox memoir about the making of Back to the Future is coming out on the 14th also. And Shin Godzilla, which I saw with Noah, is coming out October 28th. So we got some good stuff coming up here in the last bit of the month now. So that's pretty decent. So I got the Dreadstar stuff up there. So good. Actually, let me just see if there's Alien Legion one also. Now I'm thinking about it. Excuse me a second. I'm shopping while I'm supposed to be talking to you. There's some, but I'm not sure. It's doesn't look like there's any new ones. So I'm going to skip that one. But at least I got the Dreadstar ones on my list, which is good. So got that coming up. Maybe Christmas presents, because November 11th is the first one to be out. It's only $40 though. This is interesting. So Mel Gibson is doing a sequel to his Passion of the Christ, which I'm not a big fan of. That's one of the reasons why we're in the mess we're in right now, is because when his movie came out and became a $300 million domestic hit due to these fake Christian Baptists who, when people see this movie, which is basically just like an hour of Jesus getting the shit kicked out of him and beaten, they're showing his torture in full detail because Mel Gibson's a psychopath. That's besides the point. Jim Caviezel played Jesus and is in the manga mindset, as is Mel Gibson. So originally when they announced the sequel, it was actually, I think, 2 movies. He's doing 2 and 3 of Jesus, I think. Sequels to Passion of the Christ, and the next one's coming out next year or 2 years from now, something like that. I don't know if he's even filming yet, because this story is going to change it all up. Jim Caviezel is no longer going to be playing Jesus. He played Jesus in Passion of the Christ, was set to star in these next 2 movies, and then just abruptly quit. Don't know why. It was announced this week, so we'll see. Who they cast with that, and we'll see what goes on. Whatever. What the? Oh, can I go through one show where I got everything going right? Sheila Team has been cast as Akasha in the new series Vampire Lestat, which is AMC did Interview with the Vampire for like 2 or 3 seasons, and now Vampire Lestat is the second book in the Lestat saga, and they're making that in the movies now. So at Sokka, so Sheila Tim is playing at Sokka. Show is doing that as well, and then we got our first look at the new Vampire Lestat, set debut in 2026 as well. I can't read again. It can't be that far down my. This is really pissing me off. I need to look this up. That's why I want to do this real quick. See if I can find it. So bear with me. Sorry, almost there. Matt Pat has been officially cast in Five Nights at Freddy 2 as Toy Bonnie. That's not what I was looking up to, but I was going to talk about the other person who was cast in Five Nights at Freddy, and there it is. There it is. New Jumanji movie starts production November. There it is. I knew I was going to find it. Yeah. So good on that. I'm not even going to, because I know if I go back to it, it's going to reschedule itself. So there we go. So that's interesting about that. Didn't know they were going to do it, but they are. Primitive War 2. I don't know if you know about Primitive War. Was a very low budget B movie sort of indie film about a group in Vietnam that discovered dinosaurs, and they have to fight the dinosaurs while in the middle of the Vietnam War. I think it did fairly good business. Was in movie theaters for a little bit. Did okay, I guess. Didn't so much that they made a sequel, and it's coming very soon. They showed the script, so I just wrote about that. Lee Pace has been cast as a voice in Invincible season 4. Rachel McAdams is joining the Joseph Gordon-Levitt directed AI thriller for Netflix. Don't know anything about it. Don't know if Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to star in it, but we know he's directing it, and we know Rachel McAdams is starring in it. And apparently, in Hollywood circles, it's a hot film idea. So, Joseph Gordon-Levitt directed that one film with Scarlett Johansson. So. That he starred in, so it wouldn't surprise me if he stars in this again. Oh yeah, James Gunn had an idea to bring Ryan Reynolds' Deadpool to the Peacemaker world, and even went so far as to discuss a little bit with Ryan Reynolds, who seemed intrigued by the idea, but eventually the whole idea fell apart, and that didn't happen. Netflix and Gobelins Paris and Guillermo del Toro have all teamed up to create a stop-motion studio in Paris. Guillermo del Toro has really started, getting his hands into stop motion again. His Pinocchio won Best Animated Film a couple years ago, and I think he's got a couple of other movies in the works right now for stop motion. And he likes stop motion, and it won't just be for his stuff. It's a studio, so it'll be for anybody who wants to do stop motion. They can do it at this place. So that's pretty decent of them to do that. We got our first look at My Secret Santa, which is a Netflix Christmas comedy. I don't know much about it, who's in it or whatever. It looks weird. Basically, last year, I think, it might have been the year before that, Netflix decided to do counter-programming. It's not really counter-programming, but kind of counter-programming to the Hallmark Christmas channel and do their own versions of Hallmark Christmas movies, but do them for Netflix. And this looks like it's going to be one of those types of movies. The I Love LA trailer, the new HBO Max rom-com series, debuted this week. Didn't pay much attention because I don't care. The Family Plan 2, another one that I was like, what? With Mark Wahlberg, is set to debut on November 21st on Apple TV. That was a movie where Mark Wahlberg is like a family man, sort of like a True Lies sort of thing, where he plays like plays an ex-assassin or ex FBI guy or something like that, and it decides that he went out and started a family, but then he gets dragged back in and gets his family involved with it. It was a huge hit, and they made a sequel, which is set to debut right around Thanksgiving, so good for them. A 7.8 magnitude earthquake hit Drake's Passage, which is the area between the end at the tip of South America and Antarctica. There's a massive, it's a massive water area that is probably one of the absolute worst places to try to go sailing because of the unknown way that the Antarctic stuff and the South America stuff just combines with things over there. It's a very dangerous passage, but an earthquake dropped there, which is really kind of crazy to see that happen. San Diego State, where my wife's cousin's daughter goes to school. Football team has these Aztec calendar uniforms, and I never had heard about that till I saw a picture of it in this week on my feed, and they're cool as hell looking. They're just really, really busy. But it's a really cool looking helmet. A Nerf catnip launcher, which shoots catnip discs to your cat, is set to come out here soon as well. And it's like, okay, that's interesting. Now we're getting to some weird stories, or off brand story. One of them is, this is my MAGA minute. The con-in-chief had his semi-annual physical, which is a bunch of bullshit. We know his medical history is he's on the verge of dying, and this was a follow-up to see that, make sure that whatever they're using to stop him from dying is still working. And they decided to give him his COVID booster and a flu shot, which is also kind of vaccine. The thing is, the hypocrites are telling us that vaccines are bad and even his CDC chair, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., said that even old people are not supposed to get the vaccine, but he did. And hypocrite much? Morons. You can, your conscience can jump through time, scientists say. That's why when you get a gut feeling about something, that like something feels off, you hear stories about people saying something didn't feel right, something felt off. I had a gut feeling I shouldn't go in that room, or I shouldn't go to that party, or I shouldn't get in the car, or I shouldn't leave right away. A gut feeling. They're saying your consciousness jumped forward into the future, saw that something bad was going to happen if you went in there, and came back and said, don't fucking go in there. And so that's what they're saying gut feelings are, is that your consciousness is traveling through time. Which I was making that up, but it's not. Finally, for this page, before we get to anniversaries and deaths, a man is hospitalized in the UK after eating nearly 7 pounds. 7 pounds of gummy cola bottles. He was hospitalized into the ER for gelatin overdose. Not a Mac story, not an Onion story. This is a real thing. He ate almost 7 pounds of gummy cola bottles made by Haribo, which does the gummy bears. It's like, what? I know they're good, but almost 7 pounds in one sitting? Are you insane? Good thing you didn't die. Unfortunately, some of these people did die. John Lodge, the singer and bassist for the Moody Blues, Nice and White Satin, Tuesday Afternoon. Those are the big ones I really like the most. Passed away this week. Sister Jean Dolores Schmidt, Loyola Chicago's sister, who is a huge basketball fan and had a big iconic time when Loyola Chicago made it a long distance in the NCAA tournament, became sort of a mini celebrity. She passed away this week. Marion Wynn, one of the Rosie the Riveters, died at the age of 99 this week. Anniversaries: Kill Bill, the first movie, came out 22 years ago this week. Fox Broadcasting, which showed Married with Children, The Simpsons, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, so on and so forth, arrived on our TV channels 39 years ago this week. Ernest Scared Stupid debuted 34 years ago this week. And we're going to talk about this show in just a little bit again, but The Haunting of Hill House debuted 7 years ago this week. I remember a couple of years ago I did an episode called The Haunting of Hill House, which was awesome, by the way. We'll talk about The Haunting of Hill House here again in a second. Let's see if it's on this page. Nope. It does not appear to be. That's okay. Jimmy Fallon is set to produce a Wordle game show on NBC that'll be hosted by Savannah Guthrie. Jessica Biel is set to star in The Ambler Way, a TV series based on a Robert Ludlum novel. So it's good to see Jessica Biel back in films. There's going to be a John Wick video game is in the works. I think I might have talked about that before, but we got more information about that. Aldous Hodge is back as Alex Cross in the trailer for season 2 of Cross on Prime. There it is. It is right there. EW Entertainment Weekly has named The Haunting of Hill House, which I just literally talked about, as the best Netflix series ever. Original series ever. Squid Game came from Korea, so that could not really be considered that much. But I really don't see any complaint there. It was one of those. I've never really sat down to binge any of the Netflix shows too much. Wednesday, Sandman, there are a few of there that I did, but this one was unexpected. It was when my whole family was gone camping. I had the house to myself. And I literally watched like the first half of the episodes on a Friday night, and I got up early on Saturday morning and watched the rest of them. And it was around this time too, about 2 or 3 years ago. So doesn't surprise me. It was really, really good. A Night of the Seven Kingdoms trailer, which is set in the world of Game of Thrones. A lot of people are saying it's probably going to be the best Game of Thrones show in a long time. It's set to debut in January, so we got their first look at it this week. This surprised the hell out of me. I didn't know there was a movie called Mercy coming out January 23rd, 2026. It stars Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson, but we got a first trailer for it. And basically, it's a great idea for a story. Basically, Chris Pratt plays a guy who created an AI, like, law enforcement thing. And it's got a lot of, Minority Report in it as well. And the trailer starts with Chris Pratt being held with handcuffs on in a chair. And Rebecca Ferguson is an AI who's saying that he has 90 minutes to solve the crime of who murdered his wife, because he's being charged with murdering his wife. And he has 90 minutes to prove his innocence or guilt. And if it cannot prove it to the AI, if it doesn't fall within this, prove his innocence within this range, he will be executed for the crime of murdering his wife. He claims he didn't murder his wife, but in order to prove it, he can't leave the room. But what he does, the AI says you have everything at your disposal to try to solve the crime. So he can contact people by phone. He can talk, he can build, he can find pictures of cameras of this, pictures of the crime scene, and any information that has been brought together by the police. And it's a neat idea where he has 90 minutes to solve his case that he's innocent, and he has to use, everything that he has, different screens, stuff like that, with the AI's help to try to give himself, set himself free, make him innocent. It looks really interesting, and I might have to check that out. It looks really, really good, to be honest. First look at a new adaptation of the Lord of the Rings, not Lord of the Rings, Lord of the Flies. Whatever, Lord of the Flies, from the Adolescence co-creator. So that's already got a good pedigree on it. But stories that interesting to check out. First look at Playdate, which is Amazon Prime's film with John Reacher and Kevin. I forget who it is. One of Sandler's guys. Ocean's 14 talked about the Ocean's prequel with Bradley Cooper and Margot Robbie. Well, George Clooney said that they're got plans for a Ocean's 14 with Matt Damon and Brad Pitt and Julia Roberts and all them. Set to start filming in 2026. Boogie Nights, Boogie Nights, to get a 4K Blu-ray here coming up soon. Nutella ice cream is coming out here soon, and caramel popped M&Ms, which is freeze-dried candy from the caramel M&Ms, is also due out here soon as well. Former Ravens quarterback Joe Flacco has been signed by the Bengals to be their starting quarterback after they lost Joe Burrow for the year. Dexter Resurrection gets a second season. Cocoa Loops, the makers of Cocoa Puffs and Fruit Loops, have combined for Cocoa Loops, a new chocolate Fruit Loop cereal coming out here soon. And it's not going to be chocolate fruit flavored ones. It's just going to be cocoa flavored Fruit Loop style things. Death by Lightning trailer is a 4-part limited series set to debut on Netflix on November 6, 2025. It's about the assassination of James Buchanan, president in the early 1800s. It's got an intriguing cast and looks interesting. Trailer looks kind of unique. Mr. Pibb is set to return by the end of the year with a whole brand new formulation and more caffeine. So that should be interesting, I guess. Wicked for Good, the sequel to Wicked, has the biggest first day pre-sales of any movie in 2025, and that includes Superman and Fantastic Four and Jurassic World and all the big movies, Minecraft, all those movies. So Wicked for Good is going to make another shit ton of money. We can already see it. We're predicting that anyway, and it's coming out the week before Thanksgiving, so it's not going to be affected by Zootopia. So look for that to make a shit ton of money this year. Still don't think it's going to be the biggest box office hit of the year. I think it should be, but I think the fucking stupid Avatar bullshit is going to become still the biggest one. And New York Comic-Con announced the return of Vertigo, the comics line from DC, which is more of a grown-up adult version of it, starting with Tom Taylor and Derek Robertson's Necretaceous. It's about like zombie dinosaurs and stuff like that. So looks intriguing. The Caretaker is a brand new book that's set to debut in April of 2026. And already a movie adaptation is in the works that's going to be produced by and starring the luscious, yummy Sydney Sweeney. Brendan Hunt from Ted Lasso plays Coach. I forget his name now. But he's Ted's assistant coach and best friend. Beard, that's what it is, Coach Beard. Just got married in real life, and Jason Sudeikis was I think the guy that presided over it. Actually, got married in Ireland. Actually, so good on that. Universal Distribution has bought Free Comic Book Day from Diamond during its bankruptcy. So we will have a Free Comic Book Day next year. There was concerns about that once Diamond went into bankruptcy. But Universal Distribution had bought it, and they will get it out there, and we're not going to miss a beat. Hopefully it'll be not make any changes to it, because there's really no reason to make any changes to it. It's a very well done thing as well. Last Sunday, the Washington Commanders tight end Zach Ertz, who's been playing forever, it seems like over 10 years at least, did not record a catch for the first time in 11 years. So every game that Zach Ertz was able to play when he wasn't injured, whenever he played in a game, he got at least one catch over the last 11 years until last Sunday, where he was in the game, did not get a catch at all. So it's kind of a weird sort of stat that I wanted to bring up there as well. A warrant was issued for an Ohio woman accused of cutting a man's testicles. So, okay. Fantastic. And a woman dies after riding the Haunted Mansion ride at Disneyland. She had a heart attack, I think. I don't think it's because it was scary. It might have just been coincidental, but the fact is that they wheeled her out in Disneyland when she was still alive in the middle of the crowd, so that ended up dying later on at the hospital. Character actor from Doctor Who and American Werewolf in London. Mike Greenwell, a former Boston Red Sox player who I remember. He played in the 90s, I think, but I remember him very well. I got it. Ron Dean, a character actor. I got it because I was looking at the list of stuff. There's so much in there, but his main ones right now: Risky Business, Breakfast Club, The Fugitive. This guy had a huge fucking career, and that's why you can't sleep on character actors, because they are, they have so many really good roles. He might even have his own page. He probably does. Ron Dean, American film and television actor. Yep. As I said, he was a character actor. He was in Connell Divide, which was one of John Belushi's chances of trying to be a dramatic actor, which is actually a decent film. Was in Risky Business, Teachers, The Breakfast Club. He was the son of, Emilio Estevez's character, I think. Nothing in Common, The Color of Money, Light of Day, Above the Law, Cocktail, The Package, The Babe, The Fugitive, Rudy, The Client, Eye for an Eye, Chain Reaction, The Dark Knight. He was in that as well. Television, he did main cast of Lady Blue, lots of episodes. TJ Hooker, a recurring role in Crime Story. Wise Guy, played Cops, DEA, Perfect Strangers, an episode. Main cast in Angel Street, Flying Blind. Had 3 episodes of Frasier, 5 episodes of NYPD Blue. Was in Murder, She Wrote episode. Did 17 episodes of Early Edition. Was in an episode of ER. An episode of Chicago Hope also. That's interesting. Was in an episode of The West Wing. Episode of CSI. 2 episodes of Still Standing. Did an episode of Numbers. Was in 6 Feet Under. Cold Case. Chicago Fire was in 3 episodes. Chicago PD was an episode. Since 8, he played an episode. So he was just a character actor. You would see him and you were like, oh, okay. If you would recognize him if you saw him. So pretty impressive about that. Anniversaries. Demolition Man debuted 32 years ago this week. Superstar debuted 26 years ago this week. The Flash TV series with Grant Gustin debuted 11 years ago this week. And Trick or Treat is an interesting film. It was a direct-to-video horror film that debuted 18 years ago this week. It's a fantastic Halloween film. As the anthology film, it's all sort of connected in the end. But it never got a theatrical release until this week. It'll be released in movie theaters briefly this week for only a couple of days. So it'll actually get its movie theater premiere here. But it debuted 18 years ago. If you can find it on streaming, I think my friend Mike from work, he watched it on streaming and he enjoyed it immensely as well. That's one of my longest ones, since I'm actually quite awake for this one. I'm enjoying myself so far. So about an hour and a half in. We've got about probably another 15 minutes to go. So we should finish up right about the time as my plan. I'll try to finish up by 1 a.m., which is the time that Saturday Night Live would end as well. It's finishing up its 50th anniversary celebration. Paramount Plus, since they got bought by this new guy, has really been going really crazy with getting stuff on their streaming service. They announced 2 shows, both of which are going direct to series without any pilot orders or whatever. First one up is I can't read my handwriting. I gotta I'll find Elle Fanning. Here we go. God, I can't read my handwriting. That's the only reason why I'm doing this right now. How does she get her own page? No, I can't find it. I can't find it. It's a. Actually, I'm just looking right here. Discretion. Okay, that's what it is. So Discretion. Elle Fanning and Nicole Kidman set to play in the legal thriller Discretion. Okay, that's what it is. I couldn't read my handwriting. So that's going to series. Nicole Kidman's going crazy with these series. She's got like 5 or 6 series going on, which is good for her. I'm glad. Paramount Plus also is acquiring it might be a limited series. I don't know if you can make a full series out because it really isn't. It's based on a true story. It's called 9/12. And it's about the first responders to 9/11 and the fight that they've had to get compensation for their health issues and stuff like that. So so those 2 are Paramount Plus is doing those. We got our first look at John Lithgow as Dumbledore. I think I talked about that earlier. It looks like Dumbledore. There we go. December 10th, Percy Jackson Season 2 is set to debut. They also, on Disney Plus, they also released some new posters. Everything's looking good on that. A Clue competition show on Netflix based on the board game Clue. They're doing a competition show where probably a similar thing where there's a contestant who has to go and figure out who killed who, not in real life, obviously. And they has to figure out from the clues that are left, like the game of Clue. It's going to be a competition game. Could be interesting if done properly. So Netflix is pretty good about doing these things. So that might be one to keep an eye out on. So we'll see that in a little bit. Heat 2 is officially been approved to start being worked on by Amazon MGM. The casting appears to be Leonardo DiCaprio, Bradley Cooper, Adam Driver, and Austin Butler, which is quite a formidable cast. If they can get everybody, I'm not sure if they are or not. Maud Apatow, the daughter of Judd Apatow, is taking after her father's career. Her directorial debut is being picked up. I can't read my handwriting. Poetic License, that's what it's called. Poetic License got picked up by a distributor, so it'll be distributed in movie theaters probably sometime next year. This show is continuing. This movie is continuing. Movie show, whatever it is, continuing to pick up some really big actors. Matt Dillon is set to play Frank Stallone Sr. in the biopic sort of thing. I Play Rocky, which is about the making of Rocky. So they got a pretty good, decent cast in that as well so far. Charlie Hunnam, who just played Ed Gein in Monster, is been cast in Monster Season 4 as Lizzie Borden's father. So he's continuing his time in there. Rowan Atkinson returns to television-esque. He's going to be on a new Netflix show called Man vs. Baby, set to debut on December 11th. Looks to be kind of a Mr. Bean sort of thing where he doesn't talk again, and his co-star is an actual baby, so that can be really funny to look at. The Witcher Season 4 trailer debuted this week. Don't care. We already knew that Paul Mescal was signed on to be Paul McCartney in the Sam Mendes Beatles biopics, which, again, to refresh people, if you don't remember, Sam Mendes, who directed 1918 or 1917, whatever that movie's called, and a couple James Bond movies and American Beauty and stuff like that, is married or was married to Kate Winslet, is making 4 biopics of the Beatles, a John, Paul, George, and Ringo biopics. So there's 4 separate movies that are going to be focused on John, Paul, George, Ringo. But what they want to do is, because their lives are so intertwined, because being in the Beatles, all 4 actors who are playing the Beatles will appear in each other's movies. So in the John movie, the actors who play Paul, Ringo, and George will appear in that. In the Paul movie, John, Paul, and so on, you get the idea. In the Paul movie, John, George, Ringo. In the George movie, blah, blah, you get that. Well, we have more casting now because it looks like they're getting closer to making it right now. Paul Mescal will be joined by Saoirse Ronan, who will be playing Linda McCartney. And so that's a really interesting casting. So having Paul Mescal and Saoirse Ronan as Paul and Linda is fantastic. So good on them. I'm looking forward to those. I think they could be really, really cool. During a family hike, a 9-year-old with autism somehow got separated from his parents and was lost in the woods. His parents and everybody were searching the woods all night long, and they were coming out to reconnoiter in the morning, to go back in the morning to search for him again, when the boy walks out by himself from the woods, and the parents went and grabbed him and hugged him and kissed him. How'd you do it? He's like, the wolves showed me the way. And they're like, okay, he's hallucinating or whatever. He must have just found his own way, until a trapper looked at his trail cameras and looked at the videos, and there's actual videos and pictures of the boy walking with a pack of wolves who were showing him the way out of the woods. So that's really kind of a neat little story about that. Jason Bateman is set to direct an adaptation of John Grisham's new novel, The Partner, set to star Tom Holland. That's a really good combination right there. I remember Paul Grisham movies used to be the shit in the early 90s with The Client, The Firm, The Rainmaker, Runaway Jury. He made like all of his movies got the Pelican Brief. They all got adapted to movies, and then they just sort of disappeared and stopped. And now we have a new one with a good cast so far and a great director. So it's very interesting. Disinherited, a new FX drama, cast Alan Ruck, Carl Gleason, Catherine Jane Herbers, Eddie Marson, and Jonathan Higginbotham into the roles. Jaden and Willow Smith are set to create an anime business, team up with a production company to make anime, which is really cool. Kristen Stewart and Woody Harrelson are set to star as a father and daughter in Quentin Dupieux's Fulfill. A new animated series on Prime, adult animated series on Prime called Kevin, written and produced by Aubrey Plaza, has cast its roles. Aubrey Plaza is also going to be playing a role. She also cast Jason Schwartzman, Joe Wengate, John Waters, Whoopi Goldberg, Amy Sedaris, Aparna Nancherla, and Gil Ozeri as all voices. The premise, I think, has something to do with how it's from the perspective of a dog who is in the middle of a custody battle between a couple breaking up. I think that's the premise of. Don't quote me on that, but that's an interesting thing. But John Waters, had wanted Aubrey Plaza to star in an adaptation of one of his books, but he was unable to get the money for it, which sucks. I would love to see that. Trick or Treat Donuts from Krispy Kreme. They always do a hell of a job with their holiday sort of stuff, and this one is no different. So that's really, really kind of cool. Wish I would have picked up the Carnival ones because they looked really, really good, but never been able to get a chance to find them. And finally, on my birthday, June 20th, 2025, there was a massive tornado that ripped through North Dakota. Upon doing more research on it, the National Weather Service has declared it the first EF5 in the U.S. in over a decade. So it's the first. It was massive. The video they showed, it was a fucking huge ass tornado. It was massive, and so they announced it as a EF5 on my from my birthday. It's pretty cool. I don't think anybody died for that, so it was okay. So deaths. Arturo Gatti Jr., a boxer, about 17-year-old, died this week. Captain Defense, a Ravens super fan, passed away this week, which is sad. He was been a fan since they came back in 1996 and was on commercials for them and was one of the super fans. So he passed away this week, which is sad. And Ed Gale, an actor and stunt person who portrayed Howard the Duck, Chucky, and Tasha the Dinosaur on the Dinosaur Show, passed away this week as well. Anniversaries: Blade Runner 2049 debuted 8 years ago this week. Charmed debuted 27 years ago this week. All right, I got only about 4 minutes to get through this small page of stuff, so I'm going to try to do this. So I don't think I have a last story in here. Dodgers, Brewers, Mariners, Blue Jays are set up for the winners of those will play in the World Series. It's good, refreshing to see some different teams except for the Dodgers. Oh, well. Ernie Hudson is set to take over the voice of Combat Carl in Toy Story 5. Carl Weathers did the voice originally. Carl Weathers passed away, last year? A couple years ago, whatever. Phil Lewis is going to be reprising his role in the Scrubs reboot, and they cast Amanda Morrow as a new character. Shailene Woodley is set to play Janis Joplin in a biopic, which I think is a really great idea. Die My Love trailer with Robert Pattinson and Jennifer Lawrence popped up. That looks like a freaking weird movie. The final Predator Badlands movie a trailer popped up this week with the Predator talking, but looks like a decent action film. Hamilton is going to be releasing 10 variant vinyl albums, all of which have a variant for a specific store, and they're all different. Zach Cherry has been cast in the Resident Evil reboot. Rush to tour for the first time in 11 years. I already talked about that. Graham Norton's show has been renewed for 3 more seasons. That's fun. If you've never seen that, it's a fun show to watch. K-pop Demon Hunters have their own ramen now in stores. Adam Driver and Anne Hathaway set to star in Alone at Dawn. I think I talked about that last week. Michael Blanchard is set to direct Final Destination 7. Fallout 2 will debut on December 17th on Prime, which means that the second and third episodes will be on Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. Hundreds are trapped on Mount Everest as a massive storm hits. That was earlier this week. I think they've been able to get them away. Anniversaries. I got 2 more stories to tell after the anniversary, so let's run through those. Arrow, 13 years ago this week. The Scout, 31 years ago this week. Requiem for a Dream, 25 years ago this week. The Departed, 19 years ago this week. Gem and the Holograms, 40 years ago this week. Assassins, 30 years ago this week. Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original family-friendly one, debuted 29 years ago this week with Melissa Joan Hart. And That Thing You Do, Tom Hanks's directorial debut, which was a fucking phenomenal movie in its own right, debuted 29 years ago this week as well. Death's Dame Jilly Cooper, author of a book named Rivals, also passed away this week. So final 2 stories this week. Felicia Day, my girl. Haven't talked much about her, but she has written her first graphic novel in a long time with Rowan McCall as the artist, called The Lost Daughter of Sparta, which looks pretty good. And finally, it was accidentally released, but Starfleet Academy will be released on January 15th, 2026. As I said, next week's episode of Dylan Knows will probably be on a Sunday. I'll be coming back from a wedding. So way out, 3 hours away from here. So we'll see how that all works out. So you probably won't see me till next Sunday. So we'll see what happens. Nothing that I know of is of coincidence of importance is coming up this week, but there we go. And it is 1 a.m. I hit it officially. Congratulations, Saturday Night Live. You have just celebrated your 50th anniversary. Congrats. And I am out of here.